On the economy, he was very defensive. He said he's already turned it around.
But that's not the way people are experiencing the economy. They're experiencing it through the lens of the cost of living. And he is a man who's built his career on empathy. Why not lead with the empathy?
Some harsh critique from David Axelrod in regard to how President Joe Biden handled himself in discussing the economy with CNN's Aaron Burnett. Now, keep in mind, Axelrod used to work closely with Biden and Obama during the Obama administration. But here's what Biden said that Axelrod felt wasn't really a good way of handling messaging as it pertains to the economy. Let's watch.
Why should people here believe that you will succeed at creating jobs where Trump failed?
He's never succeeded in creating jobs, and I've never failed. I've created over 15 million jobs since I've been president. 15 million in three and three quarters years. Trump is, he started off with the golden shovels,
For the groundbreaking here.
For the groundbreaking, and talked about this being, the eighth wonder of the world. When has he ever done anything he said? I'm not being facetious. Think about it. He started off, he lost, other than Herbert Hoover, he's the only other president lost more jobs than created in his 4-year term.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. Yeah, so Biden has two giant problems. One is on the things he's good at, which is jobs, which I'll break down in a second. He's just a terrible communicator. The interviewer there almost has to help him and prod him to get to the right talking point. And does he make it forcefully? I mean, he can't speak forcefully at all. And then of course he's got the second problem, which is that he's ignoring the elephant in the room in terms of why people are struggling with this economy. So the good news is he has created 15 million jobs, that's true. He has averaged over 400,000 jobs a month, which is astounding. Now, a lot of that was recovering from the pandemic, that's true, but what he says about Trump is not exactly right. We've explained that before on the show. Trump created about 180,000 jobs per month, which is actually a really good number before the pandemic hit. But even after we got back to the pre-pandemic job numbers, totally stabilized under Biden, you're not just re-adding the same jobs. At that point, Biden has still added 280,000 jobs per month. That's 100,000 better than Donald Trump. Have you heard that before? My guess is that you've never heard that fact before because the Biden team doesn't know how to get out a message if their life depended on it. Maybe all of our political lives depend on it. He cannot forcefully make a point. The second problem is we're going to point out here a lot. The prices have gone up for food, healthcare, and housing. So these are huge problems, especially mortgage rates on houses. But he doesn't address that at all.
No, he doesn't.
And I'm gonna tell you in a little bit the three things he could have done about those three issues that would have made a giant difference. But instead, he's pretending that those problems don't exist, which is a terrible idea.
When it comes to the general election, the only thing that matters is how independents are gonna vote. If you are a self-professed or if you're a self-identified Democrat, you're gonna vote for Biden. If you are identifying as a Republican, chances are you're gonna vote for Trump. So how do you appeal to the independents? I would venture to say you don't appeal to them by lying to them and insulting their intelligence. And what I mean by that is, Biden has actually done great when it comes to jobs. So if he wants to tout his jobs numbers, that's fine, but don't start it with a lie about Trump's job numbers. So let me give you the details and please bear with me. You can absolutely despise Trump, that's fine, but just hang on as I give you all the details because Biden does have room to brag about his job numbers. So PolitiFact actually did a deep dive into jobs numbers under the Trump administration versus the Biden administration. And one thing I can't stand is when Democrats lie about how, Trump has the worst jobs record of all time, comparable to Hoover's administration. Well, we're talking about the Great Depression when we're referring to Hoover. And when it came to Trump, it was the global pandemic that led to businesses shutting down, which is what Democrats wanted, and what Democrats wanted to be in place for a longer period of time. Okay, so the shutdowns initially was the right thing to do, but that wasn't Donald Trump's fault. A bunch of people did get laid off. To blame that on Trump, I think, is unfair. Employment under Trump was positive until the economy lost 20.5 million jobs in April of 2020, as efforts to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus led to business closures and layoffs. By the time Trump left office in January of 2021, employment had partly rebounded, but was still 9.4 million jobs below the February 2020 peak, according to the official figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now keep this in mind. The average monthly job growth under Trump was 180,000 jobs per month before the pandemic hit. Okay, now let's look at Biden's numbers, because believe it or not, Biden actually created more jobs on average per month, and he didn't need to lie about the pandemic. Okay, so by June of 2022, employment hit and slightly surpassed the pre-pandemic peak. Since then, the job growth under Biden has been an average of 282,000 per month. That's still 100,000 more than the pre-pandemic average under Trump. So he doesn't even need to lie. If he wants to brag about job numbers, he doesn't even need to lie, but he does it anyway, and it drives me crazy. The dishonesty drives me crazy. But there's also the second half that you alluded to, Cenk, that you touched on. Listen, it's great that there's more jobs available, but the quality of those jobs also deeply matter. Because if your wages and your salary is not keeping up with inflation, then you are struggling. You're experiencing a pay cut in real time. And people are frustrated about that. So when they hear the president of the United States tell them, the economy is doing great, I give myself a pat on the back, everything is fantastic, they feel frustrated about that messaging. So that is where Axelrod, I believe, is coming from when he says Biden should lead with empathy and help Americans understand that he understands that the inflation is in fact crushing them.
Yeah, so first, another caveat that's important. The president doesn't unilaterally control the economy. The head of the Federal Reserve makes a bigger difference than the president does. We talked about that in good times, bad times, Republican and Democratic presidents alike. In this case, are Biden and Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, doing something to curb inflation? Yes, they raised interest rates, now which creates other problems, but they are doing a lot to curb inflation, and they have curbed it better than a lot of the rest of the world. Now, having said that, guys, it's not enough because people are getting crunched by these numbers. In fact, one of our viewers wrote in with exactly that. Jesus Take the Wheel said the cost of living has exploded under the Biden presidency and wages haven't kept up. Everyone's quality of life has gone down. Why is this so complicated for rich people in Washington, D.C.? So I love doing the show with the members, tyt.com/team to become a member or hit the join button below. Now, that's a great point, and that's what Biden is missing. So the prices are up. Now, here are the three things he could have done on the three major areas where they're up. On food, he could have gone out there, and it's not too late to do any of these things. It would have been better at the peak, but it still can be done. And talk about price gouging that the food companies are doing. Because as we've reported here, during their shareholder meetings, the CEOs gladly admit, oh yeah, it turns out the market could absorb these higher prices, and it's not necessarily related to our employee costs at all. We're just jacking up the prices because we can. And on Wall Street, they brag about that. So why not call out their price gouging? Make it, I mean, what would be perfect is if you actually fought for the average man. But if you can't do that, I mean, that's policy, and that's 1,000 times more important. But on politics, don't you have enough sense to at least pretend to fight for the average guy? To come out there and say, I can't believe they're doing price gouging. Look at what they said in their shareholder meeting. Well, I'm gonna get the sons of bitches. You know, with Biden and the corporate Democrats, they're not gonna get the sons of bitches, okay? But come on, you can't even do bare minimum politics right. Housing, the private equity guys are buying up all the houses and driving the prices up. Interest rates are killing us, etc. He hasn't said a word about that. What are you doing, Joe Biden?
I know.
What are you doing? And actually doing something about the private equity guys would be infinitely better. But those are a lot of his funders, so he's not gonna do that.
You're so right about the private equity firms buying up residential real estate and how there has been no effort on a federal level to do something about that, because we were already experiencing a severe housing shortage. And then you have, the haves, like the private equity firms and the wealthy, buying up the limited housing that's available, turning it into rentals, and then serving as slumlords in this country. So that's a problem. The other problem is, Cenk, I remember when both Texas and Florida started to pursue bans on foreigners buying up real estate in their states, right? They wanted to protect properties for American citizens and stop allowing, oligarchs and business people from China from parking their money in real estate here with no intention of actually living here. Democrats called them racist for doing that.
Yeah, no, and of course it's because of the funding. Everything is about the funding. So, which goes to the last example, healthcare. So Joe Biden said that he was going to introduce a public option. Look, introducing things has no cost at all because he introduced a whole bunch of progressive things that he got tons of credit from the media, tons of credit from progressives, even including Bernie Sanders and Just Democrats, etc. And he didn't do 85% of them. But on the public option, he didn't even propose it, even though he said he would. Public option can drive down healthcare prices, but he won't do the bare minimum. And then instead, they're like, no, Donald Trump is evil, you have to vote for us. It is a very poor political strategy. Even if that's true and you believe it to be true, and I think Donald Trump is terrible, not sure that Biden's a great guy either, but even if you believe that it's true, it's not a winning strategy to keep saying, he bad, me good. You have to prove it because people feel the pain of those prices.
Now, Cenk, you and I have talked about some of the polls, both nationally as it pertains to the general election and also polls that focus specifically on the critical battleground states, the swing states. And the polls don't look good for Biden, okay? It is unfortunate for Democrats, it's unfortunate for Biden, but Erin Burnett asked him in this interview, do you think he could turn things around? And I thought his answer was fascinating. Let's watch.
It's also true right now, Mr. President, that voters by a wide margin trust Trump more on the economy. They say that in polls. And part of the reason for that may be the numbers. And you're aware of many of these, of course. The cost of buying a home in the United States is double what it was when you look at your monthly costs from before the pandemic. Real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since you took office.
Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along.
The polling data has been wrong all along, which doesn't inspire a lot of confidence moving forward in this general election. Because if Biden is convincing himself that the polls are just wrong and that he doesn't need to change course on anything, well, then he's not going to change course on anything. And I am concerned about that.
Yeah, so one of our members just pointed out, at least his eyes were open, and that's rare in an interview. And he had one fact that he was ready to deliver, and he delivered it. So that's actually, the bar for Biden is so low that when he just takes one step over a bar on the ground, we're like, yay!
Hey, his eyes are open.
His eyes are open. Okay, so now having said that, you know who says that polls are wrong? Losers. Here, let me show you an example.
Just remember, what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening. No, because we have great internal polling. They were fake polls that were released by somebody that it's ridiculous. No, we are winning in every single state that we've polled. We're winning in Texas, very big. We're winning in Ohio, very big. We're winning in Florida, very big.
Yeah, well, at least the last part was, yeah, you're winning in Texas. That doesn't really prove anything. Okay, but one guy's like, oh, every poll that's against me is a fake poll. And now Biden is saying a slightly more sophisticated version of that, which is, I don't believe any of the polls. Well, brother, that movie doesn't end well. It didn't end well for Trump. It didn't end well for Mitt Romney, who kept saying that the polls were wrong. It doesn't end well here for Joe Biden either. So you're denying reality. The reality is you are definitely behind in the polls, and there's a good reason for that. And by the way, everybody always remember The Democratic candidate has to win by 5 in the popular vote in order to win the Electoral College because of the insane system that we have. So when you see Biden on average down by about 4 or 5, that means he's actually down by 9 or 10. It's an absolute epic disaster, but there's an egomaniac in charge. No, not Trump, Biden. They're both egomaniacs, but this egomaniac thinks any poll that shows that I'm not winning must be wrong by definition. Everyone tells me that my poop doesn't stink around here, and everybody kisses my ass in Washington, so it must not stink. I am the greatest. I don't care what numbers or science says. Good luck with that strategy. It literally never works. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.